Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to go over all the roadblocks, all the expansion, all the contraction, all the things that are necessary for you to validate your very own experience, however you discover it, as there is no right or wrong way to get up the mountain. As we would define it within Taoism, all rivers run back to the ocean. So whatever path you're on, we're here to help you validate and realize that that's the perfect place you need to be, and you're not being misdirected by someone else's idea of what the experience, the simulation is supposed to be, because it's all conceptual till it isn't. It doesn't matter if it's quantum physics, spiritual guru, text in a book. It only becomes valid and when you feel it. So we're going to go through all the different stages of those realizations, helping you structure your realization of who you really are, and the path that you're on is the valid one. And don't forget to stay to the end of the video, and we go over a quick exercise to tune you up to all things. Enjoy the video. The way that can be walked is not the way. The name that can be named is not the name. Thou is both named and nameless. Realizing all things, the sound, the word, the name that is echoing right here, right now. Welcome to the consciousness of the way. Divine Delectable Co-host, High Priestess Jadis. Welcome.
Good morning.
And I am your humble servant and Sifu Taoist Master Sanching. The song, the chorus, happy days are here again. If you have a soul contract, and you know that you are on the other side, What does that mean? Shifu! Well, here comes the topic that is got a lot of contention, especially recently as my exploration, a deep dive into all things metaphysical, all things spiritual, all things energetic, frequency, vibration. And the more and more guests that we get on this podcast, the more and more we understand that, as everyone should know, your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. You're becoming more cryptic, Shifu. What is going on? Well, everyone has their own way up the mountain, as we would like to say or speak on it as within Taoism. So there's always this sort of like idea, we call it a glimpse, where, it's very, very common for people to get a taste. So if you were like, in some Hollywood movie and they were talking about, I'm chasing the dragon, I got a taste, I got to get more. It's like you have some and then you can't let go of that defining moment. Or is it really more, I peaked at my high school prom? I don't know. Where is it that you are on your own journey of consciousness? So you have these pinnacle moments of awareness that bring you to a point of going, whoa, it's so good to be alive. Or, whoa, it's so amazing to have this opportunity to realize there's something greater. Or, whoa, I didn't have to die to realize there's something on the other side. Break on through to the other side. Because that's really the truth. So understanding the fundamentals of all this stuff, your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. The simulation, now, we're going to get into this on all different levels, from a more technical quantum physics model all the way down to, I bumped into grandma at the supermarket and I had an epiphany that I realized that I was the second coming of Jesus. It can happen. However, you need to get attention from whoever it is that is giving it to you, i.e. your guides, higher frequency, consciousness, universe, Buddha, Tao, whoever it is.
It's very conceptual. The idea that you can experience it again, or I'm looking for it again, and then actually knowing, okay, if I do, the recipe, this step, this step, this step, this step, I know I'm going to get there. And that's something that has to be validated. And with that system, you're able to create that. And I think that's why Taoism is so powerful in what we do, is it's based off thousands of years, and it's these systems that have been put together and taught down to generation and generation and generation. And you have that replicable effect where you are going to experience it. It's not just oops, I accidentally tripped and I fell and I found it.
Right. And that's it. You want to do the dance, as my dear friend Jenny would say, all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all day, every day. Get into the ring. Make it happen. Make it realize all the time.
Yeah.
And so to do that, you must have a path, a realization, and it must be palpable. It must be regeneratable.
Regenerating.
Yeah. You need to be able to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when you repeat and you have that path, it becomes stronger.
Oh, yeah.
And stronger and stronger. And I keep getting the words, oh, my goodness, I thought the energy was strong now, but it's getting even stronger. And I've heard that from people for decades.
Yeah.
Because I know this to be true through my own journey, that the higher the frequency, the stronger it gets, and it continues to get stronger. So this is part of that realization.
Mm-hmm. It's like watching an athlete when they first start out, and you see the talent, and then you watch them, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and you're like, I didn't think they could get any better. Mm-hmm. How, you know what I mean? They were so good, as a teenager. And now look at them. They're, breaking records and creating new standards for the sport. It's like watching them progress, because every day they're doing it. They're practicing, they're experiencing, they're creating mm-hmm. that. And all of a sudden, they never peak. They're always the best.
Right. And so when you have this epiphany, the now moment, then everything is abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite. And so, people have these epiphanies. And I seem to always be witnessing that. So you have that moment where, holy moly, I'm on the precipice of profound change, and I want to get a taste. And this is where I feel like the frequency of external forces become so tangible. But let's explore what external forces mean from the spiritual category. Mushrooms, ayahuasca, DMT, LSD. Well, the list goes on. There are so many of these gateway compounds that can help you awaken your consciousness. Now, understand that everything is external. What does that mean? Shifu, what? What are you talking about? Well, your body, your consciousness, your emotions are external. What are you talking about? How does that even make sense, Yifu? Because consciousness is all things. This is a vehicle. This realization and understanding how to access that very moment that is now creates a whole different ballgame. And so we use this all the time within Taoism. When you believe you are not of this body, what can harm you? I don't want to die. I've heard that many times before, because instantly you hit a roadblock of an emotion called fear that makes it realize that way. You are not of this body. This is an anchor. There is a powerful incantation that I'm going to share with you that we use within Taoism, our inner alchemy, one of thousands. But let's just say, with gratitude and appreciation for all things that the Tao shares with you, is the eternal flame that burns inside you, which is the anchor to your truth and to all things. That's right. This realization, this connection, this truth, this oneness. The truth. What is the truth? What is the truth? The truth is whatever you believe. Yes, I know I have authoritarians like having a stroke right now. Because, Tao forbid that someone has their own perception of reality and it's actually validated by them, because that's the whole thing that we absolutely focus on, Jade and I, is you validating your truth. And your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. Doesn't matter however someone else gets up the mountain. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And when you realize that, because when you in your mind conceptualize, which is not yours, that guess what? This is too slow. I can tell you right now it's not slow enough. And so some of the hidden secrets to, accessing high levels of consciousness and the chi that we speak of, the life force that we use, the 0 point energy, is you can't get slow enough, baby. Oh, yeah. Like, imagine Neo from the Matrix slowing down as he dodges the bullet, and you see it real time. That's not slow enough. And when you come to that realization, time stops. You become void of time and space. You hang out with Jade and I enough, and you all go, what the? I have been crowned the master of void of time and space. Because you sit into this, what people would call vorteces, that is this space that is unlimited, which people coin that, but in reality, you're just entering the present moment. And with that, you step above and beyond all dimensions that were contrived and conceived and adopted or perceived as your reality. Magic, baby, magic.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's very important whenever you say, if you're not of this body, what can harm you? I think...
Believe.
Yeah. I think people, when you say that, they instantly go, like you said, oh, I don't want to die. And it's can be interpreted that way, but it's more of a limitation. You're not limited by your physical body. You're not limited by your skin color. You're not limited by your pant size. You're not limited by your gender. You're not limited by whether this body has $1 million in the bank account. You're not limited by whether, you can do a physical skill or can't do a physical skill. It's all in your mind, and it's all your mindset. It's all your consciousness. So removing that limitation and freeing you from, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too dumb, I'm too unskilled, I'm out of my league. All of those limitations disappear because you're just consciousness. You're creating whatever you can imagine. And removing that is, profound moments, an instant shift, an instant level up, an instant change that we get people to really understand by, letting them realize that.
Right. Understanding that is a separation when you identify as that, and it's conceptual to most people.
Yeah.
And that's where they end up on our doorstep, or there's a very big limitation and block in their access to these high frequencies, is because there is a separation. And, this will come in the form of their behavior. When people say, oh, I'm so spiritual, I'm a good person, I'm all about consciousness, yet they avoid you like the plague, whether it's an internet warrior that has no intention of engaging with you over text, over social media, or someone within your very small stratosphere of what we perceive as, matter, your humanness, and you can see the body language where someone will literally avoid the very interaction because they believe that they're resonating at a higher level, yet they can't seem to articulate it. And is there a right or wrong way, Shifa? You just said there isn't. No, there is not. But there is a fundamental building block of awareness that comes. So be very aware there's a template that is very much universal, but it doesn't come with description of a soul contract, a specific spirit, a lore, a language. That's not what I'm talking about. And so when Jade talks about the mind, in of itself, it's an unraveling. We don't talk about the brain, because this is where you get a little twisted, is because when someone says mind, you've been programmed to believe that's your brain. No, the mind is all things, or more commonly rippling across many different methods and belief systems indigenous to other cultures, is reflectant. The mind means consciousness, right? So understanding that is all things. And so imagine that you are all things. So to engage in frequency exchange or reset someone to a high level of healing starts with that understanding, and people can't separate themselves from their, what some people define as ego, personality, life experiences, the sum of their life experiences. And this is why we always start with that foundational point, and we focus on that for people's own cultivation, is that realization, is that, that's the starting point. That's really, really important that you come to that understanding, because you master your emotions and realize that's part of the simulation, that they're not even your emotions. It's nothing more than a barometer to define what your consciousness is experiencing, using this flesh and blood as a tuning fork. That's it. When you come to that realization, so if you're on your journey and you come across our video, you come across someone else's video, and you hear someone say, hey, you'll know when you're on the other side. And they'll open the doors up, and they'll have this very clear, concise, detailed structure of what they perceive on the other side. Remember, that's theirs. It's not yours. It can be, if you resonate with it, and this is why we always say, if you're thinking you are not knowing, if you are knowing you are feeling, if that resonates with you and go, whoa, man, I got this surge through my whole barometer. Shifa says the physical body's the barometer of the consciousness. Oh, yeah. When I get that surge and they talk about it, then I'm on the money. I'm right there. This is it. Because this is the fundamentals, right? My dear friend Hans would say, if it contracts, I stay away from it. If I'm expansive, I move towards it. This is his barometer. And that's paying homage to you, my dear friend. I know how to talk like this, but not very well. I've seen a lot of episodes of Hogan's Heroes, so We have ways of making you talk. Anyway, you know this is all in good fun because I love you, brother. But in essence, this understanding is all that it takes. Contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. And now you get into the deeper stuff because you've been programmed to never let go. You know, it's like you want to change right down to this model of physics. Let's go. Let's get into this. Physics is, you talk to any scientist on the face of the earth, any physicist, any neurologist, any psychologist, any biologist, any physiologist. Guess what? These are all baselines of their perception of reality. And a scientist specifically, because they'll always add, it's a theory. Hear me when I say that. I don't care how many times they've crunched numbers or they've accepted what this perception is or they've created in great detail their version of it. It's a theory. All of it. And so if you come out of the education system, academia per se, with some piece of paper that tells you have a PhD. You have a PhD of a blip of something, but that's about where it starts and ends. You do not become all-knowing. Actually, in the category of consciousness, you are more limited than the average person that doesn't know shit. That's the truth. The average person who doesn't know shit is going to have a effortless transition into high levels of consciousness that you have created this albatross around your very identification of yourself. That's really the definition of identity politics, right? You are identifying. You are identifying with yourself. I am Mr. PhD. I am Mrs. PhD. I am a scientist. I am a biologist. I am a psychologist. I am a therapist. I am a Reiki healer. I am a quantum healer. I am a priest. And you see, this is where people look at me and they go, well, Shifu, you call yourself a priest? Be very clear on this. My journey in this reincarnation, my validation, which have thousands of validations of the very truth that I transmit and expand on every day, is validated through that, and I'm able to go from personality to high levels of consciousness. If anything, I operate in the high levels of consciousness, and I pepper in a little bit of personality because it's fun. That's the whole point of the human experience, the human condition, is I was fucking with you guys. Come on. We're just messing with you. That's what the human experience is. I'm just messing with you. Come on. And that's the big joke, is when you start to truly embody and understand these things, you can have your cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting you just said that too, because a lot of people go from the humanist to the consciousness and like, okay, I am a PhD, I'm a quantum physicist, I'm this, and I'm looking for consciousness instead of realizing that you are consciousness and then you get to have your human being experience. So I'm consciousness, I'm all knowing. I want to expand my knowledge or information on quantum. Do you get what I mean? There's such a difference it's the exact same thing, but when you're coming from that angle and you're going down already realizing that, that's where you have that all knowing and you're looking at everything from that perspective instead of this little tiny limited perspective, but then trying to I'm coming from such a small perspective to see everything. And it's like, well, wait, that doesn't, even logically, that doesn't make sense. It's like if you want to see the panoramic view, you don't try to look through like a pinhole to see it. You know what I mean? If you see the panoramic view and you want to zoom in on a pinhole, you're still you're still having that view perspective.
Right. And so that's why people love to escape. And they use these other external forces. Only, guess what? That's just on the other end of your emotions and your physical body. It's another external. Schiffer, what are you talking about? They're all the same. Consciousness, which is what you're experiencing, you're just being able to perceive it through a lens that has been generated for you to create an understanding of what that is from your personality. But in essence, when you hook into that level of awareness, it will be replicable in your reality. That means that you can access high-dimensional shifts that will be repeatable before your very eyes. A manifestation, a healing, magic, all realized instantaneously. That's how it works. So it's all conceptual. It's all in your head. And I have this conversation with many people. And, I get it. And then I stop and I consult with the three pure ones that are my teachers that are with me all the time. They're in the room right now. They're sitting at the table looking at me. How exciting. But the realization is, you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. And you need to be able to transmute that into an actual validated experience that is not conceptual, because everyone plays this game called I fake it till I make it, especially in this space. My goodness, I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's wild. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me.
And I think that's okay. It's okay to...
Oh, it is. It's okay. And look,
Yeah.
I'm not in any way dismissing that. Like, I want to stress to that with Jade is everyone has a starting point, yet there is a level of, and Lao Tzu teaches you this, first point of healing is being accountable for your behavior. And most people just envelop in a moment, a glimpse is what we're speaking of. This whole podcast is about the glimpse, and then transmuting that into your reality as a repeatable frequency that is realized that you can switch on and off your personality to that frequency, or moreover, remain that frequency and switch your personality on and off. Completely tangible. Everything is on the table. Everything is an opportunity, because guess what? All you need is the starting seed of consciousness, and that you have an imagination, and all bets are off. Anything is possible.
And I was going to say, I think it's okay. However, it's frustrating when people do have that glimpse and then they go out and project it as if that's the only way. So when someone else...
They know what they know, right?
Right. So when someone else maybe has an experience, they dismiss it because they're like, well, but I didn't see what they saw. I didn't feel what they felt. I didn't have the same experience that they had through their perspective of their life, of their experience, of their personality. And when people kind of share their story or their glimpse as if that is how everyone else is going to experience it, that's where we remind people, like, that's your truth. That's your truth, that you know it, or you only know what you know. To not limit other people that just because they didn't have it the exact same way, they didn't achieve, enlightenment, consciousness, a level up, a frequency.
Right. No, I concur. Amen to that. Amen, brothers and sisters. And they're like, people are like, Schiffer, you're a Taoist priest. You sound like some preacher on the evangelist mission to have realization for all things. I'm whatever I want to be. And I got to tell you, I don't have a problem with someone who's an evangelist. It is what it is. That's their frequency. That's their realization. That's their knowing. And if it comes in the form of what they perceive as that very archetype, well, that's how it is. Mic drop. Because, this is the part that people get caught up in. There's never a right or wrong way. And that's the part that people freak out about with Taoism. It's like, you're serious. Like they have that moment. Have you ever seen that movie, Lethal Weapon, with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover? And like Danny Glover's standing there looking into Mel Gibson's eyes, and Mel Gibson is, he's creating a moment of like what we would consider is like a psychotic episode, what seems to be a psychotic episode, and they're struggling, and they've got a gun, and Mel Gibson's pointing it at himself, and like Danny's like, I don't care anymore. Go ahead, pull the trigger, go on, end your life, and then he puts the gun towards him and pulls the trigger, and then Danny Glover has this aha epiphany moment. He goes, they said you were crazy. I don't think you're crazy. I know you're crazy. And he goes, I think I'm just going to go get a hot dog. What do you want? Anything to eat? He's like, I'm working with a psychopath. How do I deal with this? And he just went from one shift to another. Mm-hmm. Now that's what I'm talking about, is understanding how powerful that epiphany, that moment is shifting from one level of consciousness to another. And you can adapt it to your very experience. And it's validated by you within your experience through your journey, manifestation, magic, healing. And it will transmute in that way. If you're repeating yourself and you don't get the outcome you're looking for, attempt to find another way. What does that mean? Shift, what does that mean? Wake up in the morning and get out of bed and walk down the street naked. Shifu, how insane is that? Because you've never done it before. Mm-hmm. You need to change your pattern. You need to do it dramatically. This is why people have near-death experiences. This is why people have these moments where they're like, how many near-death experiences have I had? Well, my goodness, is the old expression, a cat has 9 lives. I've kind of had dozens. And that was leading up to before I even realized who I was as my eternal immortal self. But you get these messages, they're very clear. And the beautiful part is to listen. Mm-hmm. Because it's a fundamental shift. It's like, I would use the expression, I'll try everything once. Well, maybe not everything, but almost everything. Because that is when you understand what group you're sitting into. This is the power of the now. And, from a quantum physicist perspective, you're changing a fractal pattern, because this is the part that I find really interesting, because there's this level of consensus of, no, I've unlocked the code. The universe is this way, and if you don't do it this way, then listen, it's any way you want to. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you how you know whether you've unlocked your code.
You feel it.
You feel it, and it transmutes into your reality. You think it, you feel it, you know it. That's it. That's it. So unlocking a code is all conceptual till it's not, and it's related to that individual and not you. So, for many, when I first started this over 30 years ago, I'm sitting in a meditation, breaking chair after chair after chair, and people are like, what am I not doing that he's doing? I want what he's having. The old when Harry met Sally moment. It's like, oh, I'll have whatever she's having. And this is the part of the humanist, right? You know where you can really identify where you're at when you're consumed with someone else's experience and you want that, like the single white female. That's another one. I'm right into the movies today. Mm-hmm. But the reality is you're in the perfect path you need to be in, and you can have it realized that you can be breaking the chairs the way I do. You can be healing the level of physical, the way that I perceive it, the way I'm able to show people, the way I'm able to do. You can have it right now. It's that simple. So don't ever assume, and this is the only time I'm ever going to say don't, be limited by someone else's perception of reality, because your perception is the only perception you need to be concerned with, and it becomes validated by the feeling. That's it. And that you can access it, you can morph it, you can change it any way you want.
Yeah, and that's why we created the app. That's why we have the Way 126, is that is your baseline, your starting point to start removing those limitations and those very limited perspectives, and allowing you to just feel, allowing you to just know, allowing you to just experience what it is, and get that practice, daily practice, if you like to do it daily, and realize, okay, I know I'm having it. I know I'm not just having a glimpse, because this is what it feels like. This is how everything interacts, and I just sit in that groove and I sit in that flow, and then it just becomes natural. It becomes a habit. It becomes, you do it without thinking, and and then you start to notice, I'm not feeling it when I'm in it. I'm feeling it when I'm not in it, because I'm in it so much that the only time I don't know I'm in it is when I'm out of it.
It's like a singer, right?
Yeah.
So a singer attunes their voice to hitting certain notes, and you know when it's like
On
in
pitch.
tune, it's in pitch or out of pitch. And when you hit that pitch, the more you do it, the better you get. Mm-hmm. So that repeatable thing that we're speaking of is, the more you ingrain it, it only becomes more concentrated, and it becomes more repeatable, and it becomes more instant. So the duration of that time shortens. So, within Taoism, we refer to these internal alchemy practices within Qigong to create that infrastructure, so that you can repeat it, you can transmute the energy, you can level up your physical body with the starting point of your constitution, the Jing that you came into the world with. And you can literally take your battery from 100% to 1,000% to 10,000%, and then saturate the physical with this life force energy, the chi, the 0 point energy, and you're percolating that, you're nourishing that at will with the mastery of your 50 trillion cells, that you can direct any which way you want to affect change as consciousness, healing, manifestation, magic. These are all realized, and that's the power of the now. That's the power of right now. And the unfortunate scenario is that most people do not experience that. They end up in the past or the future, and they don't have a palpable way of realizing that all that happens right now. And so, you look at someone like myself that can operate, and this is the power of Qigong. This is the power of the internal power that you have within you, the practices that we speak of within Taoism, that you can operate in all these levels, all these dimensions at once. So you can get a taste of my personality, yet I can manifest and create magic and healing instantly at the same time. And people are like, what you talk about, Willis? Mm-hmm. How you do that? And I'm just saying that's the mastery. This is what we do second to none. We're doing it for tens of thousands of years, and that's how it's obtained. You have to start with that baseline, and then it becomes realized. And so, tools like 126 are absolutely phenomenal. Deeper understandings of that, you ripple off into other states, right? And, moreover, recently we were talking about tools of divination, and this sort of understanding is where you get a real big glimpse of how that frequency is transmitting through your physical body. Mm-hmm. And, I will just say from my own experience, past lives to now, that the more you level up, the more profound and concentrated the experience becomes, and then you can just stay and oscillate there, and all of a sudden your life becomes effortless. It's like one profound moment after another just continually rolls out. Bang, 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 bang. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. You couldn't make it up if someone put a gun to your head and gave you a blank check. Do it now! Do it now! You know, and no. I mean, this kind of reminds me of a scene from a favorite Rodney Dangerfield movie of mine from the 80s called Back to School. And he's like going back to school. He's like 60, 70 years old. He's going back to school with his son, and he's sitting in one of the bleachers in an auditorium, and he's got a teacher who's teaching them something, a professor, and he asks Rodney a question, and he answers the question, and the next minute they're eye to eye, and this teacher's like losing his mind. His name was Sam Kinison, which was a famous comedian from the 80s. Real extreme. 80s, what a great decade. But it's like, do it now, he was screaming at him. So anyway, you're experiencing what I'm processing as my simulation right here, right now. Mm-hmm. It's 80s, baby. It's always on my mind. Mm-hmm. But the realization is anything is possible. And it starts with you. And so even if you're sitting here listening to us, or you listen to one of our guests, you have a level up. You're obtaining an insight into something that you may not have experienced before, which gives you an understanding that this is a click. It's like, well, I never thought that was possible. I just experienced something, and I validated through my feeling, because I have a sense, a knowing from my truth teller, that what they just said was real. What they said was true. And that's how you use this barometer to get a greater understanding of your very journey and your insight. Of course, you level up these sensory perceptions through your skills.
Right.
And this is where our mastery and our training come in, that I've personally been doing for thousands of years, through thousands of lives, and I'm doing it now in this reincarnation of my very self as an eternal, immortal human being experience right here, right now. And that's why I'm really second to none when it comes to helping people master this stuff. Jade's the same.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you start getting to a point where when you just do it so often, you don't even validate it for yourself anymore. It's just a knowing. And I know that's where you're at. We'll have experiences where, our kids will, accidentally burn themselves and touch a pan or something, and you'll remove the energy from them. And they're like, it's, my finger hurts. It still hurts. And you're like, I've already done the healing. It's there. Just, let go of your emotions so you can receive it. And they'll be like, oh, it still hurts. And then like 3 minutes later, it's like, you don't even have to ask them how their finger is. The healing was already done. You saw the energy transfer. And then they're like, oh yeah, I feel better. Oh yeah, it worked. It's gone now. And, and it takes them that minute to still let go of all their emotions and remove that as the limitation. And then once that is gone, they're like, oh, I got the healing. But you're not sitting there watching them going, did it work? Is your finger okay? Are you all right? Is the burn gone? It's
well, you do watch it because it's a fundamental, like, deconstruction of something that's irregular within your physical body. So you'll see it. Mm-hmm. You'll see it. It's like, so it's not like just a validation of, oh, please tell me when it's done because I want to know. First of all, you can see the shift energetically and on a physicality level. So, what Jade is saying is, you have a certain emotional state, and i.e. our children are not in the same sort of level of awareness, because this is a great example of how people immerse themselves in emotions.
Yes.
And so they're playing on something that happened years ago. And it's kind of like, that moment where you're bracing yourself for the worst and it never happens, because this is just a simulation of something that you've experienced from the past. But there's nothing more profound when you realize it and you watch it happen before your very eyes.
Yeah, well, I was saying, like, you don't feel the need to validate it. You know it. You know you can heal. You know you can manifest. You know you can create magic. You've mastered that. So you're not sitting there going, okay, did it happen? Did it not happen? Are
But
they feeling it?
part of that frequency is
Right.
being able to see it.
Oh, you're seeing
But
it.
the validation is being able to see it for the individual, for the spectator, for anyone around. It's understanding that you know you're there and you will visually see the profound effect. As I've spoken many times in this podcast, it could be I've seen everything thus far that I've experienced. Is there anything I haven't seen? And someone could come to me, do you think it's possible? Whatever it is, I'll tell you right now, it's possible.
Yes.
There isn't a single thing that cannot be created or brought back to a default position. Anything is possible. So, that structure of understanding is kind of critical. Is when you feel it, you will see it. From a childlike state is the best place to be, and it really depends on how you've started to create that, because the childlike state is instantaneous. You see that. You see the instantaneous response. It's really important to understand that the childlike state is the be-all or end-all. An example of being in your emotions, but also example of I could turn around and tell my child that Superman's coming out of the sky and he's going to come down and have dinner with us today. And they're going to be like, I can't wait. I have questions for him. How does he get his cape, that red dark color? Does he dye it? I mean, what does he need to do to be able to see through walls, to have X-ray vision? All these types of things need to be realized at face value. And so that state is critical. Mm-hmm. This is where, your journey, your glimpse, your reality starts and ends with you. And the faster I say faster because you can take your time. I don't, in all the years I've been experiencing this and sharing this with people in my natural born life, I don't have an agenda when it comes to my training from the Three Pure Ones. Sometimes they will stay in one space of training for a year or two. The one thing. People can't do that. I have students, I have clients. When I get them to do something and I go, look, you need to read the scripture, get back to me in 3 months. Like this one scripture. It's like, now what? What? And the problem with that is understanding this need for more, where that present moment is where you're gravitating to, and that's the power of what you need right now. And that levels up, and that's where you get the Mr. Miyagi effect. You get the driving the Pinto, turning it into a Lamborghini. I promise you, no matter what is going on that you see on face value, the internal realization is the epiphany, aha, where you get to it and you go, I had the Mr. Miyagi effect. I'm done with Shifu. Wax on, wax off, all this stuff. I'm sick of cleaning your car, waxing your floors, sanding you this, sanding you that. This is this Karate Kid moment. And Mr. Miyagi goes, Daniel-san. What? I'm done with you, old man. Wax on, wax off. Where did this come from? Because it was always being percolated and you're being brought back to that very realization, that awareness, that awakening, that consciousness. Whenever nothing is left to chance, nothing is wasted within a Taoist system. Everything has its perfect. Everything has its place. When you guys understand this, no matter whatever Jade and I are saying, it's for the perfect moment right here, right now, and you just level up, and the concentration becomes even more condensed and refined and expedited.
It's powerful when you come to that realization and you start allowing yourself to bring this in and versus controlling it, limiting it, having an expectation. You are that childlike state. I mean, There's nothing more powerful than that.
And it validates from you,
Absolutely.
right? Validates from you. You have to know it's true. Jade and I telling you means nothing.
Mm-mm.
Reading it in a book means nothing. Hearing another person's podcast means nothing until it's resonating with you, until you're able to repeat it, until it becomes your barometer, until it becomes your experience, your realization. Beginning and end. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the simplicity of it. So how do you know that you are experiencing the very place you need to be? Is you will come to this through the feeling. It can't get any easier than that.
Mm-mm.
And people dismiss it because there is a fundamental, misdirection, because they dismiss it because they put the category. Here's the big epiphany. You guys, mic drop, are you ready? People make the mistake of thinking feelings are emotions. And so this is where you get confused. This is where, you program the computer however you want. How does that mean? It means that it's quite simple. If it expands, you feel open. If you contract, you feel restricted. And so you can start with that barometer and you refine your skills. If you want refined skills, you come and see us and we'll give you refined skills to master it so it's refined, so you can access all these sensory perceptions and have limited possibilities, because that's who you are. You are limitless, abundant, timeless, endless, limitless. But let's just say you just walked away with this today and went, well, what makes me feel open? What makes me feel contracted? And if you use that framework, but then you let your emotions determine that, that's the misdirection. Whoa, what do you mean? What? Because all those emotions are the real distraction.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. It's supposed to keep you bound to this 3D reality. Well, where did that come from? Who put that together? Well, it's part of the experience as a human being, but it can be more or less of whatever you perceive it as, because this is your journey, this is your realization, this is your experience. So you can make it all about that. You can be all about the pain and suffering, or you can be all about the level up, the next glass half full, the next miracle, the next magic, the next positive experience, or you can be, one leads into another. Everything comes in threes. I walked under a ladder. Things are going to be miserable. These are sort of polar opposites, which would come from a duality. But ultimately, the higher the consciousness, the humanist component just dissipates. Mm-hmm. And you're not sort of using this language which we define as emotions. Because you can tell where someone is just by saying it's all love. Because that's their way of defining consciousness, which is all things. And again, that is very much tied into a humanist perspective. And that's perfect for them right now. But that experience, that definition, is created within a human condition. So love is something that you use to validate what it is that you're experiencing. Acceptance is what it is that you use to validate what you're experiencing. Or the all-time favorite of mine, you're authentic and unapologetic, is you validating and defining what it is that you're experiencing. You see, because when you access high dimension, high consciousness, where you're able to really, you are the universe, it's absent of title. There is no title. The camera doesn't have a title. The mic doesn't have a title. Jade doesn't have a title. All things are as one. For you to access that level of consciousness and alter a 3D reality, I'm not sitting here giving things title to create this level of change. You feel it through your whole physical body. I can give you the greater details of what takes place. And that is my simulation. Be very clear. But I will tell you through my own journey and experience in teaching thousands of people this, that it's repeatable. And it translates into other people's reality. And so there's nothing more powerful than having a way to replicate something. But this shift of consciousness it's tangible.
And like you said, it all starts with the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with that feeling.
Right. And so, let's use bending metal, for example, something that's so obscurely twisted and has been used as an illusion and a manipulation within the realms of like magic, illusionists, whatever you want to call them. It's an actual thing that is very real, and I do it all the time. I can take a piece of metal, and you can take, there's different degrees of this level of consciousness. You can take a piece of a fork and a spoon, and you can sort of like transmute the energy looking at a certain part, because all this energy is coming through it. Now remember, this is my validation through the Taoist practices that have made it real for me and repeatable. But the system that I speak of that is repeatable, that you can generate, that I can teach you, is how I'm referencing this. Are there a million other systems? Absolutely. But let's just say the energy is transmuted at a divine frequency using this tuning fork, being your upper dantian, and projecting through your 9 eyes. There's 9 eyes. Whoa, 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 oh, Shifu, whoa, whoa, pa, 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 pa. 9 eyes. These plus another 7 on your face that go way beyond the third eye that everyone references. And through that transmutation of that energy, you can take an object, anything, and you can either just think it in your mind, or you can concentrate your attention, intention on anything and watch it transmute before your very eyes. So whether it's physical flesh or it is a spoon, you can watch it curl and melt, but there's a lack of title. Or you take something. So from a visual perspective from me, you see that object alter and change. It alters and changes. So it's always what we talk about, which is soul projection within Taoism. So you see it happen first, you concentrate on it, and it starts to transmute in the very fashion that you want it to. I want it to melt like butter. And that frequency will be adjusted to that very moment, and the metal will melt like butter. Or, moreover, and you're not saying, I want the metal to melt like butter. It's just you are the mind, you are the consciousness. It's just like, melt like butter. It's like a conversation with yourself. You're going to have it audibly or inaudibly. And that's exactly what will take place, just as the healing will. Heal now. Boom. Regress, deconstruct, go back to the default, which is perfection. All these things are validated, right? In your own experience.
Absolutely. And I think it's like the Jade's analogies. Okay, we'll go back to that again. It's like us describing what ice cream tastes like to you, and you've never had ice cream before. And I can describe it and I can give you my idea. It's cold, it's sweet, it's silky, it's thick. I can describe it to you, but until you actually take a bite of ice cream and you feel it for yourself and you validate all of those things for yourself, it's just a concept. It's just conceptual. And this is the same type of thing. It's until you have to feel it, you have to experience it, you have to validate that for yourself. And then when you do, then you go, okay, now I have this knowing. When I eat ice cream again, I'm going to experience this. Maybe I'll have a different flavor, but it's going to have, or a different texture or a different type. But you have a baseline and you have a knowing because you've experienced it for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
It's no longer conceptual. You felt it.
And so you can start with the entry level stuff like the parking ferry.
Exactly.
And you're not being subject to a judgment by anyone else, by someone else believing a certain thing, and you're in fear of being engaged with it by saying, "Oh, I want a parking space," and it didn't happen because you allowed your emotions to control your behavior. You allowed your emotions to control the frequency, quite frankly.
Right.
And so the phenomenon with the parking ferry, the entry level of manifestation is that you think it and it becomes realized. And people are like, holy shit, this really works.
Yeah.
This is... I've done it 47 times. Heads up, guys, the realization is that's for everything.
Yes.
And so what happens is there's a fundamental stepping stone process to turn a parking ferry experience into a physical healing. And that comes from understanding it's exactly the same. Yet, as a humanist, they're like, oh, no. I've built this up. This is way bigger. Hell no. Oh, hell no. There's no way that me manifesting a parking space could be as easy as me manifesting a physical healing before my very eyes. And you see, this is a little thing that I want you guys to go out and do. Here's an example. And you can do it as an observer. And forget about someone that tells you there is a certain law. You can't do this. You can't aura dip. You can't energy dip. You can't possibly invade someone else's boundaries. That person has a lot of potentially other things that they're contending with from a mental, emotional level that has to give you the construct of an authoritarian position, which starts with when someone goes, fuck, and you go, you can't swear in front of me. That's blasphemous. It's a sense of control that comes with that need that their reaction to that word determines this response. So I want you to go out and go to Starbucks, go to a local coffee shop, and you start with this because we all have it within us, is you can start replicating using mirror neurons and start observing someone in a distance, not like a stalker, like, no, just observing someone. Pick someone in the coffee shop. I don't care who it is. And you can start tuning into them. You start with their breath. Then you start with their action. And you, from a distance, can start mimicking that. They put their hands together, you put your hands together. And you start to go, I want to experience their breath. And you tap into that breath. And you're like, ooh, they're very shallow. They're shallow breathers. You start tapping into this. This is a synchronicity that's a mastery, right? And so you start breathing like them. And then all of a sudden, within it's literally seconds, you've already linked with their energetic field and their frequency. And so what will be a validator for you will be this very moment where your hands are in the same position they are, and then you move your hand over here, and they're off reading their book, watching their phone, and all of a sudden you watch them go, and you go, what the? Oh, whoa! They just followed your lead because it's synchronized. Now, on a deeper level, this is called the PK touch, psychokinesis. These are things that are learned. They're generally not believed to be true, but it starts with the neurology. It starts with the inner working and understanding of how you can replicate this stuff. Deeper levels of this consciousness come within group settings, and I use this all the time, linking people for massive group healings, 1,000+ people, because it starts with that. And once they all interconnected, the frequency is raised, and you come out with miracles all the time. Whether it's one person or 1,000 person or 1,000,000 people, it doesn't make a difference. So we want you to go out and test it for yourself. And then you're not standing with a judge, jury, and executioner going, you didn't manifest that. You couldn't do it. It's not possible. Oh, it's very possible. And so you get a taste, and then you come back here to the channel and you put your thoughts and comments under this particular podcast, and understand this. You want the Jedi Mastery, you know where to find us, because that's a sample. right? And it can be realized and instantaneous, and you can take that through to the end of your natural born life using that very mimicking effect of the present moment. But there's fundamentally other constructs to it. If you can capture that very moment and have it realized, you're off to the races.
Yeah. And again, the most important message to take away from this podcast is that everything is conceptual until you validate it. And don't let other people's experiences limit the way you might experience something just because they're in a different perspective. This is your truth, is the most important truth, is the only truth. And we say that in a completely non-limiting way so that you don't get caught in the weeds of I didn't feel it this way or that way, so I dismiss what happened, and then you're this bound by this expectation that you've created instead of just experiencing the present moment, leveling up your consciousness within that.
Right. 100. And with that, we'll close out this podcast with a very simple synchronization. As I say that word and you go, holy Jupiters. Yeah, anyway, it's a friend of mine that uses that a lot. And I won't add the last piece, but it's quite funny. You start to feel a resonation that I've already transmitted. And you're like, what is going on? Why am I feeling this palpable energy throughout my body, throughout my hands? He hasn't done anything, because this is what we speak of. This is a synchronization. This is how powerful it is.
The feeling.
When you realize that you can access it at will instantaneously. And until you validate that, it's conceptual. And so I'm a show me guy. I'll show you. You want it, you got it. Any which way you choose, I will show you. So with that said, any closing thoughts, feelings, or emotions you'd like to share with the audience?
No, I'm ready to go.
I think this is pretty amazing. As always, it's really sad to have what someone would perceive as a charmed life, spending 24 hours a day with your wife and children, living the ultimate realization of manifestation, which is, it's good to be me.
Poor you.
Oh, poor me. Oh, no. I get to spend all my time with my family. So, with that said, either take a sense away, add one, close it in, and we're going to start with 3 simple breaths, and we're just going to saturate the body. For all the OGs or anyone that's even for the first time in this podcast, you're going to come to realize, holy moly, it took him 3 seconds and I could feel the energy, because that's how easy it is. So you're going to have 3 breaths in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and then hold it for 9, and then we're going to transmute it through your whole physical body. And without any further ado, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Last one, breathe in, breathe out. Hold it. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Stay with that. Be with that. Anyone that can hear me in the distance or is present right now, let that be the expression of who you really are. Sit with it, whether it's the next minute, the next hour, the next day. Allow it to transmute and transform you into your highest expression of consciousness. I am your humble servant and Sifu Taoist Master San Ching, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.